So all of us pretty much know that we know nothing regarding Star Wars Episode 8. And of course, this is due to Disney pretty much having everything on the most secure lockdown you can really have, which wasn't necessarily something that happened with Star Wars Episode 7, because it felt like we knew everything going into it, from various storyboard leaks to various actual art books and things like that. So I'm glad to see that Episode 8 isn't following in that path just yet. Now, of course, we know that Rian Johnson was the man chosen to direct Star Wars Episode 8. And of course, with the recent passing of Carrie Fisher, we've all kind of been wondering what is going to happen with this movie. Might it even get delayed to do some of the reshoots? What's going to happen in the long run for this film? While we still don't know about that, recently in an interview with Variety, Rian Johnson got to talk about some of his goals for Star Wars Episode 8, and specifically pertaining to Rey, Finn, and Poe. He says, and I quote, "I wanted to know more about each of them. And that doesn't just mean information or backstory. Figure out what the most difficult thing each of them could be challenged with now. Let's throw them at that and dig into what really makes them tick by seeing how they handle that." So honestly, that sounds pretty reasonable. We got to spend just a tiny fraction of time with these characters and we still largely don't know where they stand. But if he's correct, he's going to put them into some weird situations where it's really going to test their emotional status, their friendships with each other maybe, and I really can't wait to see how they actually deal with that, because that could be a huge thing. And then going on and talk about Luke's return to Episode 8 and everything involved with him, the Jedi Master obviously and everything like that. He says, and I quote, "Approaching it with a take that I hope feels honest and real, and is going to be interesting to folks and make sense." Now obviously he doesn't give you much there, but if you kind of read between the lines, he just wants to tell you that it might be a different take of Luke Skywalker than we know. Because he says right here, it's going to be interesting to folks and make sense. Kind of interesting that he's using these words and not just saying, "Oh yeah, it's the same old Luke you've seen before, he's going to be happy to help her, yada yada yada." It's like, no, it sounds like Luke is going to be a little more curmudgeon-y, like an old man, "Get off my island." But with that in mind, he did add this regarding the two's relationship between, of course, Rey and Luke. He says, and I quote, "Both not knowing what's going to happen, and also Rey having a lot of expectations in her head about how this is going to go. It very much felt like what we all go through in adolescence, and drawings of new chapters of our lives. A really powerful part of her setup and something I really want to dig into with this." So once again, it sounds like she thinks Luke is going to be one thing and he turns out to be completely different, where I hope this is what, kind of expands these two's relationship. Now this kind of ties it back into characters being tossed into scenarios they don't think they can overcome, and seeing how they do overcome them. So honestly, that's probably going to kind of relate to Luke giving some sort of crazy challenge to Rey and seeing if she can pull it off. And that's probably going to be her big barrier while she's there. So this sounds pretty awesome, and I really cannot wait. I think Rian Johnson's a great director, and I just want to see what he ends up putting up on screen.